He has about 35 calendar years of work experience and learned from two entrepreneurial failures. And he's still friends with his first boss and last boss, which is quite rarely. He holds HR Director certificate from Cornell University, and his business experience focuses on managing a running profit career. His management style is a coaching approach, and his leadership style is acting as a catalyst and a servant leader. His communication style is unique. He first seeks to understand and then to be understood based on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective. He is into consulting, hiring top talent, talent management, and also performance management. And not only that, he's extremely passionate about coaching young people between 18 to 28 years of age. And in addition to that, he's an avid athletic. He has been to multiple climbing and walking distances. To name a few, he walked 240 kilometers from Hyderabad to Srisailam over 6 days, and also walked 270 kilometers from Hyderabad to Vijayawada over 7 days, climbed Kodaikanal, which is about 2000 meters above the sea level, and also Gunung Angsi in Malaysia, which is about 824 meters above the sea. In today's episode, let's chat with Amarnath Hari. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This is your host Naveen Samala, a fellow IT professional, and I'm just a passionate learner on a mission to shape the careers and lives of millions across the globe. And folks, in every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches like Amarnath Hari across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn some amazing stuff. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact towards the end. And you will acquire more knowledge by tuning into TGV per every minute than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me today. And folks, today we are going to discuss a very important topic: coaching to shape careers of the future. When it comes to coaching, many times people are hesitant to approach a coach. But if we look at the sports stars or any of the athletics, be it cricket, badminton, or boxing, anything you name, there is a dedicated coach assigned to a player or a team. That is how the sporting events are successful and the teams are reaching new heights. So in my opinion, coaching is very, very important. In fact, it resonated with almost every conversation that we had on TGV platform so far. One of the common trends that we have seen is having a coach or mentor, because coach will bring you some outside in perspective and will help you accelerate your career. So that is the reason we wanted to focus on coaching topic for today's conversation. And we are pleased to have Amarnath Hari, part of TGV's journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Amarnath, welcome to TGV. And in fact, it's my pleasure to have you join me in today's conversation.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. And Amarnath, can we briefly talk about your career journey and the top 3 things that have helped you so far?
Yes, Naveen. I started my career in IT and I worked for 4 years in New Delhi and then continued my IT practice in Hong Kong for about 10 years. And then I switched to, after installing a HR software for a company, I got greatly drawn towards the practice, the subject of HR, human resources management at first, and then human resources development afterwards. And then for the last 20 plus years, I've been playing roles in various aspects of human resources management and development. And if you ask me for the top 3 things that have helped me so far, I would say the first one is relationship management. And this is a skill that, I didn't know much about relationship management in the early part of my life. But once I, watched my seniors, watched some gurus, I decided that this is one skill I'm going to practice throughout my life. And it has given me great returns. The other skill I learned from some of my seniors was problem solving. And I found this to be amazingly useful because we're all in business to solve problems. Whether you're fixing my car, painting my house, or I'm fixing somebody's computer or a software or a non-software problem. Problem solving is a wonderful skill to practice throughout. I mean, we are always solving problems. And the third one, out of many, the third one is empathy. I believe, man is a social animal. And if you're not empathetic to our fellow human beings or fellow life, let it be, a plant, let it be an animal, I think we're not doing our just part in our lives. So yes, relationship management, problem solving, empathy, I would put at the top of my list.
Perfect. Out of the three, the one thing that stuck my mind is you have been in contact with your first boss and last boss. That speaks volumes about how good you are
Oh, they were
in maintaining the relationship.
they were amazing people. And the older they grew, the older I grew, the relationship just got cemented and stronger.
Mhm. So you're lucky you. Yeah. All right. Now, see, you had started in IT and then into people management, but now why did you get into coaching? What made you to take a plunge into it?
There were so many points in one's not only professional life but also personal life when you get into a new scenario and you don't know what to do, and then you are playing it with guesses, and guesses often lead you along the wrong path. And then I found that some of my seniors who were good coaches, they didn't straight away give me answers. They always said, go and find out for yourself. And they would give me pointers and say, so, and they would ask me questions. So if this goes this way, then what do you do? Then what do you do next? That made me search for answers for myself. And that made me a very independent person, a very independent problem solver. And then later on, I read about other great leaders. They're always teaching you to fish instead of giving you one. And somewhere along the line, I got so convinced that this is the way to go. Everybody should have a coach, and in turn, they must become a coach to others. And coaching demands, exceptional listening skills. Again, quoting Stephen Covey from his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. One of the habits he says is first seek to understand and then to be understood. And I find that most people around us are listening to respond. Before you can even finish, they cut your sentences, they fill your sentences, and they give you a response, in a yes. Have you heard people saying no, 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 no before you even finish your sentence? They don't even wait for you to finish to qualify your sentence and then say, no, I do not agree with you. But instead, they give you 15 no's, successively. I think bosses should listen to subordinates. Subordinates should listen to bosses. Hear them out. Take notes. Taking notes is also part of listening. Parents should listen to children. Children should listen to parents. And listening does not mean obeying. Listening means to absorb the message and then also to respond, but later. And I find that, I can't help giving you this virus example, because this listening to respond to respond rather than listening to understand has become a virus. It has taken deep roots. I can show you 50 people, show me 50 people on the street, and I'll show you 50 people who don't listen. That's how bad it is. But then you can get rid of this virus. Right now, it's very deep. It's had very deep roots in our minds. We need to disrupt this, uproot this, throw it away. Listen to your wife, listen to your spouse, listen to your children, listen to your domestic helper, listen to your boss.
Wow, quite a set of interesting and insightful thoughts. And the one which resonates with me is teaching you to fish rather than give you one. I think you brought in a very powerful message that coaches give us, right? Instead of giving us the direct answers, they will provide you the pointers. I think that actually is something which people should focus on in case if you are getting clear cut direction, probably it might help you to some extent. Whereas if you change your thought process, then it might help you in the long run. That is my takeaway. And thank you.
Life, Naveen, is built up of direct experiences and vicarious experience.
Mhm.
For example, my mother might say, don't come near the fire, it will burn you. So that's a vicarious experience. I learn it from her. I don't have to experiment, put my hand and burn it. But again, people should decide what are the experiences that they must acquire newly, and what are some vicarious experience which has been gained by others and passed on to you.
Absolutely.
So
Makes sense.
listening will actually give you that vicarious experience. And then you should also allow, okay, find out for yourself.
So that you don't have to burn your fingers by yourself.
You have to jump into the water to learn to swim.
Yeah.
You can't learn it in a classroom from somebody. So that one has to be a direct experience.
Wow. Very insightful. All right. Now, in your words, like why coaching is important for a person like me or professional?
Naveen, I feel from personal experience and the experience of others I've worked with, our mind is a maze. Our mind is cluttered. We have so many things cluttering our minds, right? From, even when we are asleep, many people have cluttered minds. And that's when you find them talking in their sleep, walking in their sleep. They wake up stressed, they go to sleep stressed. And that's because we often are in a dilemma. We may be carrying multiple dilemmas in our heads. Should I go this way or should I go that way? Should I invest in this property or that investment vehicle? Should I marry this person? Should I marry that person or not marry at all? So these are dilemmas which both personal dilemmas and the dilemmas of our loved ones prey on our mind. What a coach does is bring clarity to these dilemmas. And the coach is not a subject matter expert. A coach will not tell you what to do. A coach will not judge you. And the coach will keep your confidentiality. So they'll bring clarity to your mind. They'll help you communicate things very clearly. They'll help you contribute meaningfully. They'll also make you very self-reliant so that you take coaching help, now, tomorrow, day after, but the day after that, you learn to walk alone. You learn to take your own decisions. You become accountable for yourself. You're not depending on others all the time. And the best thing is you will discover your potential. And you'll be able to ask these questions of yourself, which a coach has been asking you all along. During my research, I saw a video of Eric Schmidt, the ex-CEO of Google.
Yep.
And he said one of the board members asked him if he had a coach. So Eric Schmidt expressed surprise. He says, I'm the CEO. Why do I need a coach? I'm the top of the chain of the pyramid. But immediately afterwards, he said, I realized what coaching actually means. It helps you think. So a person doesn't have to know your business or tell you what to do. To tell you, you have to know the business. But to ask questions and to move towards clarity from confusion requires a coach. There's a lot of depth to a coach. They're like an iceberg. 9/10 is submerged. You can't see what they're trained with. You see only the 1/10 on top.
Excellent. I think that was a great example. And especially people at a certain level and above, they think, okay, I have already reached here and I don't need anybody else to coach. But yeah, you brought in a very important message.
They actually, the coaches will drive you beyond what you think is your potential. Is when when you're like when we were walking to Vijayawada, there's a time when your body is super tired and your mind wants to give up. Your feet are hurting, your body is hurting, the sun is blazing. And at that time, the coach comes in and says, and shows them how they can be. They'll push you. They'll ask you questions and they'll push you beyond this limit. And in my particular circumstances, I found myself walking for nearly half a day. That's about 5 to 6 hours. And then I found myself running.
That's a great real life example. And now, Amarnath, let's talk about how your coaches have helped you excel in your career.
I think I was very fortunate, Naveen. From my first job, I didn't have people who were telling me or teaching me or training me. My boss said, these are the things that you have to learn. And then he straight away threw me into the deep end of the pool. He says, struggle, survive. That's how the army teaches swimming. They just throw you into the water and then have you flail about. And then you'll find that you're suddenly able to swim. You instinct will teach you. Survival will teach you how to, make the right strokes so that you're floating and not sinking. So my boss would throw me into the deep end of the pool and say, talk to the customer, figure out their problem, solve the problem, make sure that it is a sustained solution, and then only come back. And that's one of the reasons I kept in touch with my boss, Atul Angrish. I want to say his name in public.
Yep.
An amazing man, and he's so ethical. He's so problem solving. He has such a great problem solving attitude, and he's a wonderful human being. If Atul scolded you, you never felt bad. Rather, you would feel, how do I do one better? Oh, so he found fault with this. Now let me do this better. So
Fantastic.
yes, these guys have helped me become very independent. They helped me become problem solvers. They've helped me identify strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, my threats. So I am indebted to these coaches. Unfortunately, I've had very few coaches. I would have liked them at every stage of my life.
That's great. And also there is another point which I would like to bring forth. In case if you are surrounded by yes people all the time, right? We will not know what our weaknesses are and
Oh,
what are
that
our
is so
strengths are.
unfortunate.
Right.
That is so unfortunate.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for explaining that part. And now you are in the coach shoes, right? And you started helping your clients and the coaches and all. So what is your approach in general? And if you want to talk anything about your approach as well as any real life examples, again, you don't have to take names or
Yes.
circumstances, but it's up to you, like whatever you would like to share comfortably with our audience.
Right, right. Okay, let me tell you one instance where a young man with a degree in engineering came to me in IT engineering, computer science. And he said, I have a dilemma and I want to discuss this with you. And I said, sure. So let's have a discovery session. So we find out, what is it that's bothering them. He has been thinking, dreaming about being a financial consultant all his life. He wants to go to the US, complete an MS, and he wants to become a banker, investment banker. At the same time, there is something gnawing at his mind, and he wants to be a street fashion designer. He knows that the second ambition will not find any takers in his family and friends, society in general. But he thought it was his passion and he wanted to explore that. Even more interesting is another young man who, similarly with a degree in computer science, he came to me and said he wants to be a stand-up comic. And that's the in thing these days. But I think what he didn't say, but what I guessed was his folks will throw him out of the house if they ever hear that. Studying a degree in computer science is any parent's dream for their child, and instead they want. So what you do is, your job is not to judge them. You must respect them, and your job is also not to keep their confidentiality. You must earn their trust first thing. Then you must ensure that you don't make any judgmental statement, so that they freely confide in you the worst fears, the deepest, darkest secrets. Not that you are trying to elicit them, but if they happen to utter it, you don't, you kind of stay neutral. Then a coach's tools are open-ended questions. What, when, where, how. And so that you leave the choice to the coachee to answer it in the best possible way that they can. We don't get to ask why question. Naveen, why are you wearing that shirt? Does it prompt you to give me reasons why you are wearing those shirts, or does it indicate my disapproval?
Yeah, probably it gives me a feeling that you are disapproving.
Instead, if I ask, what are the reasons you chose this shirt? It's unambiguous question.
Yeah.
But if I say why, you might feel, oh, this person disapproves of my clothing sense. So we cannot ask why questions. We cannot ask questions which end in a yes or a no answer. So we ask, where are you going? For example, if my son comes home late, I should not ask him, why are you late? I rather, what made you late? Respect. He's already shivering in his attitude as he comes in because he knows he's in trouble. So you don't get them further into trouble by saying, where were you? What were you doing? Don't you know that curfew is at 10 p.m.? These are called stacked questions. So we also take care not to ask stacked questions. We ask one question at a time. We ask questions where they can give their response properly. So there is a lot of respect built into a coaching relationship and a coaching conversation. And best of all, you should always ask them options. Many of the thoughts are buried. Some are on top of their mind. Many others are buried. So there's one more shovel that you have in your conversation. It's called what else? What else? It works like a shovel. It digs into their mind. It works like a pickaxe and digs into their mind and brings out the options. Many people commit to a course of action because they haven't considered all their options, especially the students who commit suicide. Was it their only option? Did they not? They should have considered other options. That's an extreme example, of course. And then, so once you get their options out, you ask them for their commitment towards their options. The coachee will himself or herself say, once they rate them, they'll know which ones to drop, which ones to run with. and then you ask them to build their goals. So with your open-ended questions, you kind of guide them to in their thinking. And here, have you seen you must have seen in movies where people talk to their images in the mirror?
Yep.
That's exactly what you are. The coach. The coach is the mirror. And then, of course, when you go to the closure, you ask them about their goals, they ask them about their commitment, and then you define checkpoints. And you, in further conversations, you check how they are doing. That's a essential approach, which all coaches follow. Then, what makes some coaches, more effective with some people? So every conversation does not help, or every pair of people, of pair of coach and coachee does not work. So they must discover each other and figure out that do they actually want to work with each other. Then comes some personal traits of the coach and the coachee, which makes them work together. How much empathy do you feel? How much can you trust this person? Because a coach is not a consultant. They're not giving you solution. Buy this hardware, buy SAP, then hire a ABAP consultant. He's not giving you specifics. The coachee is giving the specific. He's arriving at those specifics in answer to the coach's open-ended questions.
So I have a follow-up question on this one. You said typically coach and coachee personality should match, and in case if they think they can work together, then only they have to sign up. So what should be the ideal time period? Like, is it like after one meeting or two meetings? When should they decide? Like,
essentially, they will find out in that one meeting. Because, there are many human personality types. And one of the assessments is DISC, DISC. And there are people who are people with high ego. There are people with a lot of influencing power. People who are socialites, they jabber a lot. So there are different types of personalities. So the coach might adjust themselves to some of their coachees. But sometimes if you're talking to somebody with, high ego state, you may find you're not able to help them. So there's a discovery session which must happen, which is usually the first meeting. In that discovery session, they find out if they want to go further or not. Usually this is an unpaid meeting.
Oh, okay.
Because there's no commitment.
So just that it's an initial assessment where somebody can decide, am I going to sign up with XYZ person or not?
Yes.
Wonderful. I think this has been fabulous conversation, Amarnath. Now, let's talk about the kind of services you offer, because you said you are going to help youngsters between 18 to 28 years of age, right? So what kind of services do you offer? And I'm going to anyways publish your website link as well as your contact email details in the show notes for sure. Our audience can refer to it, but probably you can talk briefly about what kind of services.
Right. Thanks, Naveen. Thank you for asking this question. Ever since I discovered the concept of goals, defining them, then accomplishing them, and other aspects, some goals can die, some goals can evolve. I found that generally people are goalless. Their parents might have goals for them. I want my child to complete a computer science program. They might have a goal like that. And that goal can then become the child's goal. But afterwards, these are all standard goals. I want my child to finish computer science. I want them to get a job in a multinational. Then I want them to marry. Then I want them to have children and then propagate themselves and on. But within that computer science program, how do they live those 4 years of their life? Within that professional lifespan, how do they conduct themselves? What are some of the competencies they develop? Our goals do not find their place in goals which are defined very generically. So I help people define goals. So I address the what part and I address the how part. For example, you might have a goal to make 1 crore of rupees. So I'll say, okay. And I'll say, now, how do you plan to do it? Do you want to invest in the stock market? Do you want to rob a bank? This could be many options for them. So people will say, I will earn this corpus of 1 crore rupees, or I'll earn a PhD in the next few years, or I will go and dedicate 2 years of my life in social work, in volunteering. Particular statements of goal statements that people like to make. In fact, when I speak to people about having multiple aspects in their goals, for example, when I find myself telling them indirectly, for example, what are your volunteering goals? What are your financial goals. What are your, goals to fill a certain need in society? What are your goals towards preserving the environment? These are not considered in all that computer science, multinational kind of a thing. So I also hope to make young people more aware. This awareness is growing, but I want to make, contributions towards this effort. So I help people, define short-term goals, medium goals, long-term goals, and then I help them define competencies. For example, are you a thought leader? Do you drive change? Do you accomplish, extraordinary results? Ordinary results will not get us anywhere. We have to accomplish extraordinary results. How good are you at collaboration? How good are you at developing relationships and then leveraging them? How good, and when you become, when you ascend the ranks of professional life, how good are you at identifying top talent? How good are you at coaching your team? So these are some of the things that we build. I also work with people to build something called an executive presence. So this takes a longish definition, but if you're going to move up the ladder, there are some things you must do to develop that, something called executive presence. So that's what I help people do. Over time, I have moved down the age scale. So I like to work with younger people so that if they start out right, they can live all or most of their lives in a very planned manner.
Fantastic. And I think it looks like you take a very specific approach and rather than one size fits all kind of thing, and which is so useful. And in case, dear audience, if you are looking for any coaching assignment, if you are looking for any coach, probably Amarnath might be the right person to go. And you'll find his contact details in the show notes. And thank you so much, Amarnath, for talking about this coaching. And we have been talking very serious stuff, right? So I would like to add some spice to this episode by
Okay.
asking you a few interesting rapid fire questions upon your consent.
Okay.
All right, so let me move ahead with the rapid fire and fire the first bullet out of it. So, what was your childhood fantasy, Amarnath?
I wanted to build seafaring ships, Naveen, and I built a number of them using building scrap.
Oh, that's so interesting, actually. All right. Moving on to my next one. What is one thing that you'd like to change in the world if you had a superpower to do so?
I would make more people accountable for their thoughts and actions. People understand the word responsibility, but very little of what is accountability.
Mhm. Okay, sounds good. Moving on to my next one. What is the best feedback that you have received so far?
This is one of my younger colleagues and coachee said about me when he was referring me to someone. He said, first engage Amarnath. You can thank me later.
Wow.
I think that's all he said.
Very, very impactful. That
Very
is,
minimal wordings, but powerful impact.
yeah, absolutely. Concur with you. Now, moving on to my next one. What is the funniest moment in your life so far?
My sons and I went, riding an all-terrain vehicle in Malaysia, a very hard course.
Mhm.
And there I was so scared. My youngest son was also very scared. But at the end of the course, I think I discovered the child in me, just as my younger son was discovering the man in himself. So I just could not, finish digesting that realization. So yeah, it still tickles me today.
Oh, wow, interesting. All right, let me move on and ask you one last one for the rapid fire. What is one electronic gadget that you like to see or invent yourself?
I think very interesting question, Naveed. Yes, I would want an electronic gadget which is close to an implant in your ear, and
Mhm.
every time you're unkind to somebody out there, or to the environment, or to a animal, I want it to beep loudly in your ear, telling you that you should correct yourself.
Very interesting, but I understand the purpose. In fact, again, another profound message. So, this has been a fabulous rapid fire. With that, let me flip back to the mainstream and ask you one final question for today's conversation. So, Amarnath, what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
I would say, Naveen, without any hesitation, get yourself a coach, get one for your professional life, get one for your personal life. I'm not saying this to promote coaches' employability, because if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you don't know where you are going, then every road will lead you there. If you don't have a plan, then you will surely be a part of somebody else's plan. So plan, and the coach helps you plan. And later on, when you are, at a certain stage in life, turn around and coach others who need your help.
Wow. Very impactful message. And thank you so much for being part of TGV.
I think I should thank you more, Naveen, because you have helped me collate my thoughts and pack them up and deliver it in a wonderful conversation. I think I'm more grateful to you.
All right. So, pleasure hosting you. And in fact, I loved every bit of this conversation. Thank you so much, Amarnath, for joining me today.
Thank you, Naveen.
All
Have fun.
right. Yeah. All right. All right. So, folks, before we move into the trivia section, here is a small request to each one of you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from so that you will be notified about all the future episodes. Also, if you have enjoyed this conversation just like I did and found it useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the guiding voice so that your friends will learn new stuff like you and we will gain new subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. And before we jump into the trivia section, here is another request. In case if you have found any coaching assignment so impactful and what did you learn from your coaches, or probably what did you learn from your coaches, I would like to listen to you in the form of comments, or probably you can send me a direct message on social media platforms just by searching for my name, Naveen Samla, and I'm going to read out in future episodes. Now, let's cruise into the trivia section of today's episode. Today's trivia is about Nike. And do you know what was the logic behind branding Nike as Nike? Here comes the secret. The sports brand Nike was named after the Greek goddess of victory. And ever since, there is no looking back. That's why they are still the pioneers in the business and all. And you have so much of credibility that the company has created for themselves, and customers love Nike products. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Naveen, your fellow IT professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make difference in the lives of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye-bye.